In the interest of satisfying the curiosity of those who are looking for some significant information on a Yellowstone, Kayce Dutton spinoff, let us just state that we have it. It was announced today by CBS that you will be able to watch Why Marshals, a new spinoff that will star Luke Grimes as the character that was stated earlier at some time in the early part of the year 2026. It has not been discussed much further at this moment, but we are able to confirm that it will be broadcast around 9 o'clock at night following the broadcast of Tracker. The time zone is Eastern. For those who are not aware, Marshals is a working title, and according to the network, the following is how it is being described. Following his departure from the Yellowstone Ranch, Dutton becomes a member of a highly regarded United States military force. Marshals combining his talents as a cowboy and Navy SEAL to bring range justice to Montana, where he and his teammates must juggle family, duty, and the high psychological cost that comes with serving as the final line of defense in the region's war on violence. Marshals, combining his abilities as and Navy SEAL, bringing range justice to Montana. There are currently no more cast members that have been revealed. However, it is important to note that, in contrast to Yellowstone, Taylor Sheridan will not be serving as the showrunner for this series on a day-to-day basis. Instead, Spencer Hudnut, who recently completed his time as the character on SEAL Team, will be taking on that responsibility. It is very evident that he is well qualified to take on this post simply on the basis of his expertise there. Sheridan is still involved in the series as an executive producer, so you do not need to be concerned about that. It is important to keep in mind that, in addition to the Grimes show, there is the possibility of a great deal of other spin-offs from the original series. It has already been filmed that one of them is in the Madison. While this is going on, there has been talk for some time about a spin-off that would include Beth, Kelly Riley, and Rip, Cole Hauser, but we have not heard much about a launch date for the spin-off. In spite of the fact that Kevin Costner's departure prevented the Yellowstone franchise from continuing with a proper season 6, the tale will continue thanks to the newly announced CBS series starring Kayce Dutton, Luke Grimes, and Beth Kelly Riley, and Rip, Cole Hauser, as well as the Yellowstone spin-off starring Beth and Rip. In his role as John Dutton III, the proprietor of the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch, Kevin Costner was the show's most impressive and memorable character. Kevin Costner did not return to the series for Yellowstone Season 5 Part 2 because he and the creators of the show were unable to come to an agreement. The choice to not return to the series was surrounded by controversy, and the conclusion of the season was particularly contentious. Nevertheless, there were a few aspects of Yellowstone Season 5 Part 2 that were executed brilliantly. As a result of Kayce selling the ranch to the Broken Rock tribe and moving back to East Camp with Tate, Brecken Merrill, and Monica, Kelsey Asbel, both of John's children had their stories come full circle. An other significant decision was reached by Beth and Rip, who relocated to a ranch located west of Dillon, Montana. While the last moments of Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 14, would have been perfect epilogues, they actually mark the beginning of something new. Kayce and Beth's scenes are the beginning of something new. Despite this, the spin-offs will all appear exactly the same as Yellowstone Season 6 when taken together. Without him, Kevin Costner's goal for 7 seasons of Yellowstone would not have been able to be realized, which means that the 6th season of Yellowstone would have most likely focused on Kayce and Beth's life, apart from one another. Their separate shows are now able to take the place of that. In the days leading up to the conclusion of Yellowstone Season 5, a casting contract revealed that Riley and Hauser would reprise their roles as Beth and Rip in a Yellowstone spin-off, most likely in place of the 6th season being produced. The 5th season provided us with a wonderful preview of what the show will be about, telling us that Beth would start to put her finance degree to use in order to figure out how to make ranching become lucrative. It is possible for Beth to apply what she has learned to the operation that her husband is undergoing. But a spin-off for the couple would not have been sufficient to replace Yellowstone Season 6 on its own. The announcement about Kayce's Yellowstone spin-off on CBS, on the other hand, confirms that screenwriter Taylor Sheridan will cover the entire range of what happens to John's children when the show concludes. If viewers tune in to Beth and Kayce's episodes respectively, then they will receive a complete image of life in Montana after John Dutton III's death and the sale of the ranch to Thomas Rainwater, Gil Birmingham. This would have been the basis for Yellowstone Season 6, so if they watched those shows, they would get the full picture. With Beth and Kayce holding it down on the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch, the Yellowstone tale would not have been able to continue after Costner's departure since they were unable to pay the enormous inheritance tax that caused them to sell it. Consequently, their narratives would have been essentially distinct in the 6th season of Yellowstone. Kayce Dutton had the opportunity to become a member of the branch from Beth and Rip. On the other hand, I was under the impression that Kayce was getting ready for something even more substantial than that in Yellowstone Season 5, something that was to be passed down to Tate, that was even more significant than the management of the ranch. Because of the CBS show, Kayce will be able to shine, and Beth and Rip will have the opportunity to take up a significant amount of room in their narrative. A continuation that focuses on Kayce is necessary, particularly in light of the manner in which he demonstrated his leadership in the final chapter. With his position as livestock commissioner, Kayce was able to command the medical examiner's office and get the investigation into his father's murder reopened as a homicide in Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 11, 353. Kayce's performance was superb. Instead of striving to keep up with Beth's brother, the CBS show will give Kayce the limelight that he deserves, and it will also provide Beth and Rip the opportunity to occupy a significant amount of space in their particular plot. When all is said and done, the siblings are enough close to one another that they might occasionally cross over. It was time to bring the original Yellowstone series to a stop and ensure that its greatest remaining elements were preserved in offshoots, especially after the reception that Yellowstone Season 5 Part 2 received, which was both positive and negative. Riley, Grimes, and Hauser were all ready and willing to keep their Yellowstone personalities alive. However, Costner was unable to return to Yellowstone because he was playing the role of John Dutton. It makes more sense to pick up the pieces and begin again, John Dutton, rather than attempting to rebuild the program without including its essence into the process. Despite the fact that it was fascinating to watch all of their storylines unfold at the same time, the characters are strong enough to be able to stand on their own. In light of the fact that Kayce Dutton's Yellowstone show on CBS will be the first Yellowstone spin-off to be made for broadcast television, I am curious to see how people react to the show. It has come to my attention that Yellowstone fans can be divided on who of John's children they support, and I am curious as to whether or not this will be reflected in the determination of which spin-off is watched. Watching both the Yellowstone spin-off created by Beth and Rip, as well as the branch created by Kayce, will provide viewers with a comprehensive understanding of how John Dutton's children are coping with his passing and how their storylines are developing, so providing a complete image of the anticipated 6th season of Yellowstone Season 6. There is a heightened air of urgency surrounding the topic of whether or not fans can anticipate Yellowstone Season 6, now that Yellowstone Season 5B has officially concluded. In light of the highly publicized divorce that occurred between the show's co-creator, Taylor Sheridan, and the leading man, Kevin Costner, which culminated in the latter's portrayal of John Dutton III being killed on screen, the 5th season was conceived of as the final chapter of the main show. Initially, the show was planned to be a 7-season series. Although a batch of episodes that will be officially marketed as Yellowstone Season 6 has not been confirmed, the storyline of the flagship series will in fact continue. This will primarily be accomplished through the newly announced spin-off titled Dutton Ranch, which will feature Beth Dutton, Kelly Riley, and Rip Wheeler, Cole Hauser, as well as the recently announced spin-off starring Luke Grimes as Kayce Dutton. According to Chris McCarthy, President and Chief Executive Officer of Showtime and MTV Entertainment Studios, Yellowstone has been the cornerstone on which we have launched an entire universe of global hits, from 1883 to Tulsa King. And I am confident that our Yellowstone sequel will be another big hit, thanks to the brilliant creative mind of Taylor Sheridan and our incredible casts who bring these shows to life. She is quoted as saying, "It was also said by David Glasser, the Chief Executive Officer of 101 Studios, that the Dutton story continues, picking up where Yellowstone leaves off in another epic tale. We are ecstatic to embark on this brand new journey and share it with people all across the world. The Madison is the name of the spin-off series that stars Michelle Pfeiffer and is the other sequel series. Previously, Matthew McConaughey was going to play the lead role in this series. Despite the fact that it is not entirely obvious how much of this will actually carry from the flagship, more on this later, the tale that is of the utmost importance to the audience is, without a doubt, Dutton Ranch, and it will naturally transition from the conclusion of the 5th season forward. According to a prior explanation provided by Nelly Andreeva of Deadline, I get the impression that it will most likely feature other cast members from the Mothership series alongside Riley and Hauser. According to reports, the new offshoot will be the first spin-off to have Yellowstone in the title, since it will be led by Yellowstone characters portrayed by the same actors in the same present-day time frame. This is because the new offshoot shares the most DNA with the Mothership of any shows in the Yellowstone universe to date. Even though it is technically a 6th season, the Beth and Rip show is being packaged as something other than Yellowstone Season 6 in order to gain a strategic edge. This is true even though the show is technically a 6th season. The continuation of Yellowstone under a different name would effectively enable Paramount to keep the new episodes within the company's ecosystem as opposed to sharing the goods as they have been doing in the past. This is because the flagship series has an ongoing exclusive streaming deal with NBC Universal's Peacock, which predates the arrival of Paramount Plus. Stan's exclusive claim here in Australia is somewhat similar to this. Let's just hope that this little piece of legal maneuvering won't result in Paramount filing yet another case against South Park that will cost several millions of dollars. In the 6th season of Yellowstone, or at Dutton Ranch, the show will be centered only on Beth and Rip. In light of this, the Lovebirds and their functioning ranch, which is located 40 miles west of Dillon, Montana, have some interesting plot possibilities to explore. You could go on and on about these two for an eternity. There are no boundaries or restrictions when it comes to them, as stated by Cole Hauser himself, who has repeatedly indicated an interest in delving deeper into the relationship between Beth and Rip. However, when asked about specifics, the leading man did not provide any information and remained quite silent. It seems to me that the United States of America has spoken. Hauser told people that the audience continues to enjoy the play. There are certainly a great number of individuals who gather together with their families on Sundays, and we provide them with the opportunity to have the experience of being taken out of their own living rooms and placed in Montana, where they are entertained. And I believe that, in the end, it is really that straightforward. In a similar manner, Kelly Riley has not divulged much information, and she recently ended her relationship with the flagship series in an Instagram post. Greetings. I am currently immersed in another role that is going to include another land in the United Kingdom that is worth fighting for. On the other hand, the conclusion of the play is taking place tonight. No matter what the future may bring, this is the conclusion of the show that we have been producing for the past 7 years. Riley pointed out in his writing. She continued by saying, "Words cannot express how I feel about the people I had the opportunity to collaborate and create with throughout the seasons. The friendships I have formed will last a lifetime. A combination of the trust and commitment of the cast, as well as the support from the staff. I had the opportunity to speak, and I was able to occupy the role of a woman. It altered my mind. I was enthralled by it, and I shall be eternally thankful to it for the challenges it presented to me in every conceivable way. In recognition of Taylor Sheridan, who took a chance on me and proceeded to write her in ways that allowed me to feel like I was on fire as an actress. I appreciate it, Taylor. We would want to express our gratitude to the public as a whole for accompanying us on this journey. Creating something truly unique for each and every one of you was a priority for us. The larger tale, as well as the Yellowstone franchise as a whole, will also continue through these additional spin-offs, as was mentioned earlier. A wealthy matriarch named Stacy Clyburn, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, relocates her family from New York City to Montana in the wake of her husband and brother-in-law's tragic deaths in a plane crash. Patrick J. Adams and Beau Garrett, both of whom were previously seen on the television show Suits, are also scheduled to make appearances. According to what was stated earlier, the spiritual sequel was first being discussed with the intention of having Matthew McConaughey play the lead role. At one point, Kurt Russell was also a part of the conversation. However, it is evident that this has since been abandoned. During the month of August 2024, cameras were officially rolled back in the states of Montana, New York, and Texas. It is anticipated that the premiere will take place sometime in the latter half of 2025. Backdoor driven by the story arc of Jimmy Herdstrom, Jefferson White, in Season 4, and built upon by the interstate narrative that was widely featured throughout Season 5. A story that takes place in the current day about the famed 4-6's ranch in Texas, which Taylor Sheridan owns in real life because, of course, he does. There was a generation of the Dutton family during the year 1883, which was a time of great hardships ranging from prohibition to drought and the early days of the Great Depression, which impacted Montana long before the Wall Street crash of 1929. The prequel, which stars Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren and follows the conclusion of the film 1883, centered on this generation. In the first season, the following occurred. After acting in self-defense against the former fiancé of his wife Alexandra, Julia Schliepfer, Spencer Dutton, Brandon Sklenar, was jettisoned from the ship that was taking him back to Dutton Ranch. Since then, he has been desperately needed to fight off those who would take it away from his family. The newlyweds have now been forcibly separated. It was revealed that the villainous tycoon Donald Whitfield, Timothy Dalton, had taken advantage of the law to assume control of Dutton Ranch by paying the outstanding property tax. In the event that Kara, Marin, and Jacob Dutton, Ford, fail to repay him within the year, the deed for the coveted land will default into Mr. Whitfield's possession. These events took place back on the home front. At the same time, Tiana Rainwater, played by Amina Neves, is attempting to escape from both the cruel Catholic Church and the United States Marshal Kent, played by Jamie McShane, while leaving a trail of dead bodies in her wake. The second season of 1923 was released on Paramount, Plus on February 23, 2025, and it has just recently come to an end. This is yet another prequel that recounts the turbulent beginnings of the Dutton family and picks up where the events of 1923 eventually leave off. Prior to Kevin Costner's departure, there were also negotiations about a prequel that would take place in the 1980s and focus on a younger version of John Dutton III. Enjoy this interesting fact. A procedural series of all things is now being developed by CBS. The series will be led by Luke Grimes, who had served as a Navy SEAL and is now a rancher and cattle commissioner. However, beyond that, the details of this storyline are still being kept under wraps. Kayce's goal is to lead a cowboy lifestyle and be content with his family. He no longer wants to take the lives of other people. The burden of a massive mega ranch that cannot be maintained in the modern era is something that he does not wish to carry. He is looking for his own personal piece of heaven. As Grimes explained to Esquire, it's as easy as that. In the 5th season of Yellowstone, the surviving Dutton son surrendered the coveted Yellowstone Ranch to Thomas Rainwater and the Broken Rock Reservation for a symbolic fee of $1.25 per acre. This was done in order to protect the property that his family had sacrificed for over the course of several generations. It is a gesture of goodwill that the reservation provides him with a small plot of land where he can live in peace. With his wife Monica, played by Kelsey Asbill, and his own son Tate, played by Brecken Merrill, where he can run the ranch at his own leisure, and most importantly, where he can be canonically free for narrative maneuvering by showrunner Taylor Sheridan. Although there are a great number of unknowns at the moment, it is currently impossible to tell who will be featured in Yellowstone Season 6, Dutton Ranch. With the exception of Kelly Riley and Cole Hauser, whose characters are considered to have survived the long-building confrontation between Riley's Beth and Wes Bentley's fictitious brother Jamie, the other characters have not survived. Lloyd Pierce, Forey J. Smith, and Carter, Finn Little, are also expected to continue working at Yellowstone Dutton Ranch. On the other hand, the other hands will soon be required to look for new employment opportunities, which is contrary to what their brandings are intended to entail. Yellowstone Season 6, Dutton Ranch is expected to make its debut in the fall between September and November 2025 for those who are not American, around the same time as the Madison, according to a report that was published by Lucas Shaw of Bloomberg. That being said, there is not yet a particular release date at this point in time. On the other side, the spin-off starring Kayce Dutton will be released in the year 2026. Similar to the release date, there is not a trailer for Yellowstone Season 6, and there is no doubt that there will not be one. Keep an eye out for any new information that may be posted here. At least, it was what Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan had in mind before the drama that unfolded in the bunkhouse became public knowledge. Yellowstone was racing full speed into the 6th season. The most valuable player, who was responsible for the Dutton dynasty, was not yet prepared to hang up his cleats. The abrupt departure of Kevin Costner, however, caused the entire franchise to take a sharp turn away from the ranch trail. Off-screen tensions and schedule conflicts caused what was meant to be another explosive season to turn into a farewell tour. This was all due to problems that occurred off-screen. What exactly was Sheridan having in mind prior to Costner's departure from the company? The 5th season of Yellowstone was not supposed to be the final one, in no way, shape, or form. According to reports, the show's creator, Taylor Sheridan, had plans for 3 more seasons before Kevin Costner left the show. What exactly took place? Without a doubt, drama. There was a disagreement between Sheridan and Costner behind the scenes regarding the contracts and the filming schedules. The actor Kevin Costner, who plays John Dutton, the father of the Dutton family, eventually left the role to concentrate on Horizon, his multi-part cowboy epic. Approximately 3 seasons earlier than Sheridan had anticipated, Yellowstone was canceled due to a disagreement with Kevin Costner, as reported by Bloomberg magazine. That state of tension was not new. Moreover, Costner stated to Deadline, "As a result of the manner in which they have discussed it throughout the past year, I have not been feeling particularly positive about it. It wasn't honest as stated." From this point on, I will be discussing a little bit about what the actual reality was. About it, I have a contract for the 5th, 6th, and 7th seasons of the show. A new agreement was reached in February following a period of negotiation that lasted for 2 or 3 months. Due to the fact that Season 5 was divided into 2 uncomfortable parts, 5A and 5B, and a conclusion that was patched together from what was supposed to be a mid-season break, we did not receive more seasons, Season 6 and 7. If you have been with the Duttons from the very beginning, this may be infuriating to you, but there is some good news to be found here. With a lot of hard work, Paramount has been transforming the Dutton legacy into a full-fledged universe. Take, for example, the television shows 1944, The Madison with Matthew Fox and Michelle Pfeiffer, and a spin-off of Luke Grimes for CBS. It has even been brought up that Kelly Riley and Cole Hauser are involved with Dutton Ranch. Reasons for the expansion? Streaming wars get the blame. The rights to Yellowstone were acquired to Peacock by Paramount at an early stage, and now the company is working on developing new content that will be exclusive to Paramount+. The departure of Costner has just accelerated the process. Once again appearing on screen, Kevin Costner is not playing the role of John Dutton. He is exchanging fact for fiction at this point in time. With the premiere of The West, an 8-part documentary series that will begin airing on May 26th, according to Deadline, the Yellowstone actor is delving into genuine history. In addition, Costner is serving as an executive producer alongside Doris Kearns Goodwin, who was awarded the Pulitzer Prize. Not only that, but it is not your typical classroom review. American frontier lawmen, criminals, ranchers, resistance, and everything in between are all explored throughout the course of the West, which spans a century. You can anticipate vivid images, extensive archives, and tales that have influenced and shaken the concept of the American dream. The series does not hold back on anything, from the resistance of Native Americans to the story of Lewis and Clark. Get ready, guys, for Kevin Costner is not yet finished with the Western region. The giraffe cries out in fear and pain from inside the pit. Birds fly away from nearby trees. One magical yellow, very big giant honeybee notices the noise and starts flying fast toward the direction of the giraffe. The scene feels hopeful, yet emotional, with tension in the air, realistic with a slight magical touch, vertical composition. The future spin-offs will continue to air on the Paramount Network, but stream exclusively on Paramount+. As of right now, The rumored shows are Dutton Ranch, which stars Kelly Riley and Cole Hauser, a spin-off for CBS starring Luke Grimes, The Madison, which stars Matthew Fox and Michelle Pfeiffer, and 1944, which is a third prequel. When there are 4 new spin-offs, who actually needs 3 more seasons of the show and not stopping? From time to time, I express my dissatisfaction with the way that Paramount Pictures has handled Yellowstone after Kevin Costner left the company here on Esquire. It was not because the Horizon star was some kind of brilliant beacon that kept the program alive. Rather, it was because his character's abrupt and unceremonious departure shattered the series into a million broken pieces. Taylor Sheridan, as I'm sure Yellowstone aficionados will recall, effectively shoved the patriarch of the Dutton family into a herd of wildebeests, much like Scar did to Mufasa. After that, our Dutton Simba declared that he was unapologetically glad that it took place. In December, Luke Grimes shared with me his hope that everyone would be able to recognize that it was time. To be really honest, there was a part of Kevin being gone that meant some of the conflict was gone. Obviously, it didn't make it super fun to be around. Not pointing any fingers, but it was actually the easiest season we filmed. Similarly to the Yellowstone brand baked beans that were recalled by the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, this week, it seemed as though the season 5 finale was the best possible location to pack it up and accept that there were some shortcomings. After then, rumors began to circulate regarding the possibility of spin-offs everywhere. This relocation was unavoidable. This is something that I have noted in the past, but one of the most compelling reasons for Paramount to continue Yellowstone beyond the flagship series is because it appears that they did not place a high value on Yellowstone prior to Sheridan being the television powerhouse that he is today. According to the legend, Paramount initially sold the streaming rights to Yellowstone to Peacock before the latter built their own streaming service. This is the reason why you have never been able to watch an episode of Yellowstone on Paramount+. Simply by using Costner's departure, Paramount was able to kill the monarch and begin the process all over again, so correcting the trajectory of the network, giving away their own kingdom. The network is presently planning at least 4 different spin-offs that will be set in the Yellowstone universe, according to news that was confirmed by Paramount this week on their website. Why Marshals is a series that airs on CBS and stars Luke Grimes. Additionally, there is a sequel that stars Kelly Riley and Cole Hauser and is rumored to be named Dutton Ranch. Additionally, there is another prequel that is set in 1944 and a sister spin-off called The Madison that features all new characters. To be honest, as a fan, I am not quite certain that the Marvel-ification of Yellowstone is the most effective strategy for moving forward. But if Paramount's objective is to preserve Yellowstone's future, then this is the path that we intend to take. To begin, by the time the story is brought back, the Dutton family will no longer be the owners of the ranch in Yellowstone. The sale of the land by Kayce to Thomas Rainwater and the Broken Rock Reservation was one of the most poetic and fitting endings to the 5th season of the show. There is no way that this decision can be reversed in any manner, shape, or form, regardless of where Yellowstone is ultimately headed. Yellowstone's first obstacle to overcome in a secure manner is that. In the second obstacle, we are attempting to piece together how all of these shows might or might not be connected to one another. The fact that Sheridan would not be writing the series himself is one of the most intriguing aspects of the announcement regarding the Luke Grimes spinoff. It has been announced that the creator of Yellowstone would be returning to the post of executive producer, with Spencer Hudnut of SEAL Team serving as the production's point person for showrunning duties and writing. Even after this fall, Sheridan will continue to serve as the leader of Dutton Ranch, which is going to be the beginning of Yellowstone's future. The plot will continue with Beth Dutton, Riley, and her husband Rip Wheeler, Hauser, although it is currently uncertain whether any further Yellowstone grads will also return to the show. In the closing episode of the 5th season, Beth made a purchase of a smaller ranch beyond Billings for the two of them to operate. The pair is going to stay in Montana, where they will continue to face the same challenges and adversaries in their ranching endeavors. From what I've seen so far, I anticipate that this series will behave and appear the most like Yellowstone. What comes next? a task force drama that will be helmed by Kayce Dutton, Grimes, and will debut on CBS in the middle of 2026, is what Paramount intends to swap gears for. Although it is perfectly feasible that Grimes will not appear again until the very first episode of Why Marshals, it is not as simple as transporting the Avengers to separate parts of the multiverse in order to break up the Dutton family. At this point, we are discussing a family, and it is a family that is quite close to one another. There is something that doesn't set well with me about the concept of the Duttons only getting together for the occasional crossover episode together. Also, at some point in the future, Paramount will be required to explain to audiences how the Madison fits into the Yellowstone universe. According to reports, Sheridan intends to relocate a new family who will be known as the Clyburns to the state of Montana. Matthew Fox and Michelle Pfeiffer have both agreed to star in the show. Despite the fact that the series was the first to be confirmed as a Yellowstone sequel spinoff, there is still no schedule for the release of the Madison. What is my recommendation? To ensure that fans have a clear understanding of the concept, Paramount should publish one of those Marvel Cinematic Universe-based timelines. It's not that you can't trust what you read on Esquire, but the fact that the first news we got directly from the network itself was the press event for Why Marshals that took place on Wednesday doesn't make much sense. In this situation, Paramount is sitting on a gold mine, and it is finally the network's privilege to own the franchise. They are waiting for what exactly?